Welcome in, everybody. Welcome into the live stream. I'm really glad to be back here on YouTube. You know, most everybody who is turning out today is very accustomed with the normal YouTube content that I produce. If you've been subscribed to the channel for a while, or you've been here for even a little bit of time, you know myself as the Crypto Bull God. You know me as CBG. I come out here. I do a lot of technical analysis on both crypto and traditional financial markets, and I'm really aiming in that content to always help you, really be helpful. At the heart, a lot of who I am as an individual, I love being an educator. I love taking things and educating others, and it really fills me with a lot of inspiration myself when I see that things begin to click with people and it helps people out. Well, you know, today's live stream is going to be a little bit different. For those that do tune into the normal live stream, yes, this is an official announcement to say that I am back full time. So I will do a little ding, ding, ding there. I'm very happy to be back. Very, very happy to be back. But the other thing that I realized is that this platform, which is YouTube, this platform, whether you follow me on Twitter, but today we're talking about YouTube, it really is providing me an opportunity to do something a little bit different today. I had shared in the trailer kind of coming into the live stream today that I was confronted with a lot of adversity back in 2023 and still moving forward. The road is, we're not done yet, but we've gotten through the worst of things. Hopefully. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to use my platform. I wanted to use my platform to get something out there with two respects, okay? Two respects. The first is no matter what your age is, what your gender is, what stage of life you're in, whatever your walk of life is, wherever you're at in life, what I'm going to share with you is going to be a story of adversity and something that, you know, no matter what adversity you're currently confronting in your life, you have gone through, you will go through, God forbid, you or somebody you know goes through something similar. This should leave you feeling better equipped that whatever circumstances are you're confronted with, you can make it out the other side a lot stronger. So that's really the first thing that I want to accomplish in today's live stream. The other thing that I definitely want to accomplish in today's live stream is I want this to be a source of education. I will certainly be putting disclosures in that I am not a medical professional. None of the information that I'm providing you with should supplant or bypass by any means or be a filler for a medical professional. But I do feel very well equipped and informed to share information with you that I think can be helpful. Because one of the struggles that I did find when I was going through my cancer diagnosis was trying to find accurate, reliable information, specifically as it relates in particular to the unfortunate complication that came up with my thyroid surgery. Yes, I had thyroid cancer. That is the specific cancer that we're going to get into. And so I really want this to be, I mean, the beautiful thing about doing this live stream and putting this content out on YouTube is that whether you find it helpful today, whether you find it helpful 5 years from now, this content is going to be out there. I mean, people could stumble upon this live stream 10 years from now. So I just want there to be some form of educational content out there. So that is the second thing. I do see some comments popping in here. And I will be paying attention to the comments at different points during the live stream, so please feel free to drop any comments or questions that you do have. But I'm also going to be very focused on the content at hand, and so if I don't get to your comments right away, please understand that I do want this to be engaging, but I need to stay very focused. I have notes here. I want to make sure that I really hit on everything that I want to hit on. The other thing I want to acknowledge beyond my normal, I guess this does apply to the normal people tuning in as well. I know there's going to be some people tuning in live, and I know there are going to be people tuning in syndication. who normally don't tune into my normal content. And I would like to thank you for just checking out today's live stream, because I do think that, again, no matter where you're at in life, you're going to find this informative. And the last thing I want to say to everyone sort of tuning in here, I'm a very passionate individual. So, bear with me here. This is some of this as I go through sort of my story with you in particular. I really want you to know who I am, because I think understanding who I am as a person will help to better relate you to the story I'm about to share, to make it more personable and relatable to you. Okay? And with that being said, I also wanted to thank every single person who has reached out to me on DMs on Instagram, on Twitter, text messages. I would say that 99% of people who have reached out to me, it's been nothing but positivity. For the longest of time, as you can imagine, when you're confronted with something as serious as a cancer diagnosis, you're keeping that close to the hip. Immediate family, is really who will be closest to what's going on, right? So you're not sort of opening up to anyone and everyone, right, about what's going on. Pretty serious stuff. So you're not going to be sharing your story with everyone. But let's get into things. Let's see who we have in the live stream. Black Oil, it's always good to have you in the house. Mike, it is very good to see you. A beautiful photo, as stated earlier. Steve, glad to have you in here, my friend. Oof! Let's fucking go. DT, great to have your support here. Thank you so much. Greg, I need a little bit of that. I'll share why. I appreciate the positive feedback. Kyle, good to see you as well. And Linda, thank you. I very much appreciate. Great to be back. Greg, thank you for the super chat, man. You're too fucking kind. Let's get into things here. So let me kind of set the stage a little bit before I get into how things came to be, and I found out what was going on, and sort of the paper trail of what's happened over the course of nearly a year now. Not quite a year, but close to it. Let me give you a little bit of background about myself, who I am as a person. So just this month, I celebrated my 42nd birthday. Yes, I am 42. I was born in January of 1982. And how would I describe myself as a person? Well, I think the most important thing that I should communicate in today's live stream is, and how it relates to the story, is that I found at the age of 14 my greatest passion in life. We all have different passions, right? Clearly, I love being an educator. I'm a data analytics guy. But at the heart of who I am as a person, and what brings me the most joy and happiness in life, is fucking going at it in the gym. It's just who I am. I'm a weightlifter. I love exercising. I started weight training in June of 1996. And I don't exaggerate when I say this. I've never taken a week off. I've literally never taken a week off from the gym. Now, I want you to think about that. For 27 and a half years of my life, I never took 1 week off from hitting the gym. Really, I mean, it's crazy to say out loud, actually. I've been someone who has dedicated himself to integrity when it comes to how he trains. I've never put an illegal substance in my body. I've never taken a questionable substance. I remember being 16 and being nervous about trying creatine. I never tried creatine until I was in my 30s, because I never wanted to take something that I would consider, whether it was right or wrong, where I was cheating, right? I always wanted to do things the right way. So very important to keep in mind that I never put anything questionable inside my body. Your body is a temple, all right? You need to be careful what you do with that. Never was even a party guy. I was more concerned with the girl I dated in college coming home and spending time with her than going out and getting drunk at college parties. I was not somebody who abused his body. I always took very good care of myself. And that has completely consistently taken place from the age of 14 all the way up until the age of 42. Okay? And so really what you need to understand, I'm not putting myself on a pedestal here, I'm painting an accurate picture. If there was a 41-year-old guy or 40-year-old guy who you could think was like the epitome of health and wellness, that was it. I mean, friends would joke with me about it. I get questions all the time about what you can do for working out and exercise, diets. If you saw me in the gym, anyone tuning in, because I've shared this information with people who I see at the gym, it's a huge compliment when people come up to me and give me positive feedback at the gym. I run circles around at the gym. People half my age. I mean, I'm just very, very active and very intense, and that has been at the forefront of who I was and still am as a person. And so what transpired last year, kind of going back to things, is I had some medical testing performed. And it was not related to anything with my diagnosis, okay, with my thyroid cancer diagnosis. It was not related to that. And very commonly when you actually do some research on thyroid cancer, what you do find is once something suspicious is discovered, it's actually through some sort of unrelated or routine form of healthcare, okay? So basically what came out of the testing was something that looked suspicious. There was a nodule, fairly medium, large-sized nodule, located on the right lobe of my thyroid. Now, if we take a look at what your thyroid looks like, you can see it's like a butterfly-shaped item on your throat here. Okay, so on this right lobe right here, there was something very suspicious. It was a large enough nodule that, hey, let's get an ultrasound of that. Let's kind of check that out, right? After we did the ultrasound, I was referred to ENT, okay, ENT, to get a recommendation on doing a biopsy. Now, I had a biopsy performed. It's called a fine needle aspirated or finely aspirated needle, FNA, FAN, FNA, fine needle aspirated biopsy. Okay, hopefully I'm saying that right. And what came out of that was that there was a high probability that this was cancerous. Okay, now going into the biopsy, I can tell you that what was being told to me was that, hey man, this is really low risk. You have a really low probability. I'm a man of numbers and probabilities. I'm an actuary, for those that don't know. So you're being told going into the biopsy that you have a very low probability of this thing being cancerous. Plus you're male. The prevalence rate of thyroid cancer is twice as high, and maybe even slightly more than that, in females than it is males. And so I thought, all right, this is, it's not going to turn out to be anything. Well, based on what the biopsy said, there was a very high probability. There was not a certainty, but a very high probability it was cancerous. I was not willing at that point to accept that it was cancerous. I was not. I refused. I just was unwilling to accept that. And I know as an intelligent individual with common sense that, look, there are certain things in your life that you can't prevent. Certain things are genetic. You can take as good a care of yourself as you possibly could, but shit can come up in your life, and that's just the way it is, and you have to accept it. Like, I knew that prior to being diagnosed with it, but it's a different thing to actually get diagnosed with something. It's very different when you're in the shoes of somebody who is actually being told that you more than likely have cancer. It was I couldn't conceptualize. And kind of thinking about this and taking myself back to that moment I have not really thought about because I've had these other complications I've been so consumed with. It was very overwhelming. It was very overwhelming. And so what I decided to do was I wanted a second opinion. So I went to see a second ENT, okay? I want to see a second ENT. I think one of the most, and this is something critical I want to hit on, guys, that is very important for you to keep in mind moving forward. Self-education is very important. You need to be a partner with your healthcare provider in getting things done, okay? Now, you can't kill yourself, and we'll get into this later with Google searches because you can do more harm than good, but you do need self-education. And so based on my own self-education, which we'll get into later, and based on my understanding, I went to a good ENT, my first ENT. I still decided I wanted a second opinion, and she even encouraged me to get a second opinion. So I went to see another really good doctor, really nice guy, very nice guy. And I think he did a really good job from an educational standpoint explaining the different types of cancer, what my biopsy result meant, the fact that even if I got a different result on a second biopsy, you can't ignore the first result. So we had a lot of good discussion, a lot of really good discussion. And so based on that discussion, I still decided to get a second biopsy because I couldn't accept that I could potentially have cancer. So I got the second biopsy, and we'll get into what's called Bethesda categories. We'll get into that later. This Bethesda category was actually higher than the first biopsy. So I was like, all right, clearly, we're not going to get into a faith-based discussion here, but clearly God is trying to tell me something. So clearly, more than likely I have cancer, and I just need to accept this. So I went through, and this is very important that you understand this. I am an extremely positive individual, extremely positive. Anybody who knows me well knows that I'm a very look at a glass half full than half empty. I am the last person you will talk to, and I'm negative. If you're having a conversation with me and I seem very pessimistic or negative, something is really off, right? So I'm Mr. Positivity over here, okay? One of my grandparents when I was a kid, I'll never forget this. He, when I was a little boy, he nicknamed me Happy, okay? Because I was always smiling. I was just always happy, all right? That's just the way I am. And this was really challenging. A lot of this stuff, it was also difficult because up until this point, I was really dealing with everything on my own. I mean, my family is located very far away. I was also a single man. So, I'm a very independent and strong individual, but even being as independent and strong as I am, that really tests you as a human being when you have no one there with you going through this. Okay? Pretty fucking difficult. All right? So I had to shoulder a lot of this stuff alone, and I remember going through certain emotions where I was very angry with God. Okay, we're not going to get into a religious conversation or faith-based conversation. But I remember, and I think it's very normal. I was very angry with God. I questioned certain things that I did wrong in my life, if maybe I was being punished for those things. It just didn't make any goddamn sense to me how somebody who is 41 years of age and has been the fucking epitome of health all of a sudden gets a diagnosis that he's got cancer. It's all but a sure thing he's got cancer, okay? And we're going to... But what I just could not come to grips with was the idea, oh man, this internet connection, I apologize. I don't know what's going on. See if that helps. Okay. Sorry about the internet connection. What I could not come to grips with, what I could not accept, was that a man who, we all got faults, right? Not trying to paint myself as some angel choir boy over here, because I'm far from it. But a man who has taken such good care of his body and done all the right things and never put illegal substances in, Christ, I would consider it a compliment when someone would come up to me and question and say, hey, are you taking this or that? And I'm like, I don't even know what the hell you're saying, because I don't know what that is. No, I don't operate in that territory. I eat clean and I work the fuck out of myself. So it really was, hopefully this internet connection is not freezing up as often as it looks like on your end, because that would be disappointing. So the crux of what I'm saying here is that I definitely went through a period where I was very angry and really questioning whether or not God was punishing me for, something I did in my life or things I did in my life. Definitely went through that period, because it just didn't make any sense to me, right? So let's flash forward here. Ultimately, I came around and looked at things, in my opinion, in the right manner, which was, this ultimately was a blessing in disguise. And what do I mean by that? Well, this thyroid nodule that did turn out to be cancer, did indeed turn out to be cancer. This was discovered incidentally last year in 2023 through some medical testing unrelated to anything. I had no symptoms. I felt completely, it was, you could say, asymptomatic, I guess. No symptoms whatsoever. And so had I not had that testing done, and that didn't show up on the report, and the healthcare provider, because I wouldn't know looking at a report what is suspicious or what's not suspicious or what I need to be doing. I need to rely on a healthcare provider to tell me that in diagnostic testing. So thank God I had the diagnostic testing done for some unrelated condition, and this showed up, and we took care of it fairly quickly after it occurred, okay? Fairly quickly after it occurred, because had this gone undiagnosed for another year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, now you're talking about a significant risk of it spreading further than what it did, and we'll get into that. It could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse. So I came around eventually to say, this is a blessing in disguise. It really is. And I do view things as, I had a really, my best friend at the time who lived down in Florida. And it's why, by the way, I say carry it forward in all my Instagram posts, and I say carry it forward in all my YouTube videos. He was taken from life very early, young age, through an accident. And, things don't make sense in the moment. And sometimes you have to move forward in life and look at things in hindsight to try to make sense of something, that somebody was in our lives for a reason. Okay, that is what I believe. Well, in this case, even though in that moment my diagnosis was not making sense to me, I realized that in time it's going to make more and more sense, that a lot of positive can come out of that. So anyway, we now have two biopsies that have confirmed, all but confirmed, because there are no confirmations until surgery is actually performed. But we have two biopsies which have resulted in a high probability I have cancer, right? So now what I did is, speaking of education, it is my responsibility to locate the best surgeon possible, okay? You need to get out there and you need to find somebody who has a ton of experience and a ton of somebody who has performed a lot of thyroid surgeries and somebody with an extremely low complication rate, okay? I did not want to have my throat, just for lack of a better term here, I didn't want to have my throat slit open and have organs removed from my body from someone who does surgeries once a month, okay? And no disrespect to the second ENT I saw, but that is the reason I chose not to get surgery with the first ENT. Not only the way he explained the surgery to me did I not like, which we'll get into, but I didn't like the idea of having surgery performed by someone who did thyroid surgeries once a month, okay? The frequency of those surgeries was not high enough for me to consider going there. So I'm doing research and doing research and doing research and doing research, and I stumbled upon this center, the Clayman Thyroid Cancer Center located in Tampa, Florida. Best decision that I made. This is a specialty surgical center that does nothing but thyroid surgeries. Nothing but thyroid surgeries. They treated me astronomically well. From point A to point B, they treated me astronomically well. So let me just say this. God forbid you know anyone who ever has thyroid surgery, you or someone you know, this is where I recommend going, hands down. From point A to point B, they treated me like a human being. They educated me. Everyone I interacted with was great. I cannot say enough positive things about them. So they have, and you'll see on here, they have playlists on here. This is an awesome playlist with Dr. Clayman, who I've gotten to know pretty well. There's a full playlist here with all sorts of frequently asked questions, and I would encourage anyone who has any suspicion or is going through something similar that I'm describing to come here. It's a great educational research. You can find them on YouTube. You can clearly see the channel right here. So I consulted with them, and what I really appreciated about the Clayman Thyroid Center was the way they explained the surgery. I was very hesitant. Okay, I haven't explained this point yet. We know there's a nodule. Once again, there's a nodule on the right side. I've had 2 biopsies, and they've indicated with a high probability that I have thyroid cancer. We don't know the type of cancer, and we don't know if the cancer has spread, which is critical. Now, what I liked about, let me explain the way the first ENT described the surgery. The first ENT, the way he described the surgery was they would remove half of your thyroid. And if they were able to readily, they would have someone from pathology there. And if they could readily identify the type of cancer, which is the majority of the cases, they would remove the left side. Okay. But I was trying to avoid, if at all possible, a full thyroidectomy. I was trying to hold on to hope that I could get what is called a hemithyroidectomy. A hemithyroidectomy is where you get half your thyroid removed. And in most cases, you're never needed to be put on medication. The half your thyroid acts just as normal as if your full thyroid. You're good to go, okay? I wanted to avoid a full thyroidectomy because I was reading nightmare situations on Google about people having their thyroid removed. Again, Mr. Epitome of Health over here who's never missed a week of working out. Weight gain, fatigue, hair loss, all these things, okay? And the idea of being a fatigued fat man did not sit well in the mental brain, okay? For someone who has earned the right to be in great shape all of his life, the idea of being fatigued and that stuff was going through my head. So I was trying to avoid the full thyroidectomy. Now, the thing that I appreciated about Clayman Thyroid Center, this thyroid center, the way they described the surgery was, they would do their own testing, and if they identified the cancer hadn't spread, they'd go in, they'd remove, part of the side of the thyroid that had the nodule. The first place your cancer spreads is to the lymph nodes behind the thyroid. So if they saw it had spread to the lymph nodes behind the thyroid, that's an indication they need to take out the full thyroid. They can't be screwing around with anything then. If they look at the lymph nodes behind the thyroid and the cancer has not spread to the lymph nodes, they're not, even though that nodule was there, they're not touching the left side because the cancer, the first place your cancer is going to spread is to the lymph nodes behind the thyroid. It's really hard to see in imaging. They really can't confirm it just in imaging once they do the surgery, they can confirm that. So they remove the half with the nodule. They say, we know that has something suspicious. We can test that for a type of cancer, but if it hasn't spread to the lymph nodes behind the thyroid, no need to do a full thyroidectomy. And I was like, okay, I'm holding out hope here. I can get a hemithyroidectomy. Not a big deal. I knew someone who had a hemithyroidectomy. I actually reached out to her to get information from her, which if you are watching this live stream, thank you again for being for me there in that moment when I did reach out to you. But the long and short is I got educated on all this stuff, and they offered to schedule a consultation, and then immediately after the consultation, we could get surgery. Now, for me, what worked best for me is I wanted to travel up to Tampa. I wanted to get the consultation, kind of digest what was going on in my life, and schedule the surgery at a later point. That's just what worked for me. So I scheduled both the consultation and then surgery like 4 to 5 weeks out. Something to keep in mind as we're going through this story is there's not a lot of time that's elapsing here. May was when I found out. May 2023 is when I found out that I had the nodule. And by October, I was up at Clayman, just between all the different time that had elapsed between going to 2 different ENTs, getting 2 biopsies. I was finally at the point where I could schedule my thyroid surgery in October. I believe it was October, either September or October, okay? So I was not going to sit and wait on this. And that's important to keep in mind. I think anytime you're given a diagnosis like this, you don't want to sit around and wait. Fortunately, one of the surgeons did not like that I put it in this context, but it is the truth, I believe. Fortunately, thyroid cancer is one of the more slower moving forms of cancer. So no one at any point expressed there was any immediate threat, if you will. But the sooner I act, the better, right? So I got that scheduled. I went up for my consultation. They did a very thorough diagnostic of my throat, extremely thorough. And unfortunately, what they found out through that diagnostic testing was that the cancer had spread to a couple lymph nodes on the right side of my neck. So now we know that the cancer, they did a biopsy on the once they found that out. They did a biopsy there to confirm that, yeah, you have some cancer on the lymph nodes there. What we know is you've got the nodule on the right side. We pretty much all but know that's cancer at this point based on all the testing. The first place it spreads are to the lymph nodes behind your thyroid. So we know it has spread there because now it's actually starting to go into the right part of your neck. Okay, so now we have to do something called, you need a full thyroidectomy, but you also need a partial neck disectomy. Okay, so they have to take out some lymph nodes in there. The other thing they did, which was really interesting, and thank you, thank you God, this was not the case. They also did some extensive testing of my vocal cords, because one of the other places that the cancer can begin to spread is to your vocal cords. Everyone loves my beautiful voice on this YouTube channel. We don't want to damage that voice. So thankfully they did testing on my vocal cords. Shout out to John. John was awesome. John was great to work with over at Clayman Thyroid Center. I loved working with that guy. He was such a nice guy. But he did some testing on my my vocal cords, and thankfully my vocal cords were untouched, unfazed by the evilness going on in my throat. So they did all that testing. So at this point, we know what we got to do. We got to go in there. We got to do a full thyroidectomy, and we got to do a partial neck dissection. So thankfully, for this part of the journey, I guess you could say, I reconnected with someone who I've known for a very long time, who I'm very close with. And this person was there for me from this point moving forward, which I definitely needed a little bit of support. So that was monumentally helpful. And so we traveled up to Tampa, and I had my surgery done. I had my surgery done at the very beginning of November. Those who are subscribed to the channel, that's That's why I was out of commission. Now, let me tell you what I was expecting, and this is ending the story, and we're going to get into the educational piece. I'm also going to get to comments. So feel free, if you guys have any questions or you have any comments, feel free to drop them. Okay. So what I was expecting after surgery, okay, was 2 to 3 weeks, no heavy lifting. I'd have a full recovery, and I'd be good to go. Now, that was daunting enough. For a man who's never taken a week off from the gym, taking 2 to 3 weeks off was pretty freaking daunting of no heavy lifting, okay? But I could get past that fact knowing that, hey, the cancer's out of my body, I'm good to go. Put things in perspective, it's a short period of time, you'll get right back at it. And I was more concerned, quite honestly, I was more concerned with just knowing I was going to be okay and getting the hormone medication tweaked right so that I would feel like myself, which we'll get into. So that first week after I had gotten my thyroid removed was a pretty brutal week. I'm not going to lie. There were several days in there. Definitely not feeling like myself. Not pleasant to be around. I wasn't yelling and screaming or anything, but I was just, I didn't feel like myself. You do, and I'll let you do your own Google research on some of this stuff. I'll probably hit on a lot of this, but you do a Google research, because I've never have. You do a Google search on what your thyroid is responsible for. So if now all of a sudden you are what is called hypothyroidic, okay, you have hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism means that your thyroid is not producing enough of the hormone that it needs to produce. Well, since my thyroid is removed, I'm going to be hypothyroidic for the rest of my life. That's why it's important to get on the hormone medication. Well, in the beginning, until your hormone medication starts to kick in, you're not feeling like yourself. You're just not, okay? So, I really struggled with a lot of things during even like the first 1-2 weeks in particular. I remember distinctly something very personal I'll share. I remember at one point I looked in the mirror at myself, and I've shared this with a couple people, but I looked in the mirror at myself and I did not see the person who I've seen for the past 27 years of his life. I don't know how else to describe it to you, but I was disgusted with who I saw in the mirror. I felt ashamed. I felt very small. I felt like I would not. There was a moment there where I really questioned if I would get back to being the person I've been my whole life, and that was about as low as I felt during that time. I was not in a good place. It was pretty tough. But I think the point in sharing that is what you need to know is I'm here today feeling tremendous. I feel great. And you go through those periods. You go through those periods in life, and that honestly was, I think that was at least as bad as getting the cancer diagnosis. I just can't tell you how awful I felt. And, I had to remind myself, I really, as positive a person as I am, I just had to remind myself, like, hey, CBG, you've been through a lot of shit in your life. A lot of people go through a lot of shit in your life, and you always have a choice of how you want to respond to things. You either, like I say to you guys, on this channel, I've said this very frequently, you either pick yourself the fuck up or you play a violin for yourself. Admittedly, I may have had 1 or 2 seconds, which is human, feeling sorry for myself, but it was very short-lived. I did not spend a lot of time feeling sorry for myself. Did not. The thing I reminded myself of even though I had the challenges I was confronted with in my life, I still had my arms, I still had my legs, I still had my smile, my eyes, my brain function was still fully there. There were so many things in my life I was blessed with from a health perspective that I couldn't lose sight of that. And I also think that's important. You know, when you're going through these moments in your life where you're looking at one thing and you're operating in a silo environment and you're like, this is going on and this is so challenging and this is so tough. Well, look at the whole picture. Look at the whole picture. Like, what do you have to be thankful for in your life? You have family and friends who love you and support you and care for you and are there for you. And if you're just looking at your health, like, I haven't lost a limb, you know, I haven't lost a limb, okay? I can still talk, I can still smile, I still have the same brain functionality, I can still think. And these are all things that you have to focus on so that you don't lose perspective on all the things that you should feel thankful for that you're blessed with in life. Very, very challenging and very easier said than done, but something that you need to keep in mind no matter what sort of adversity that you're confronted with. I finally felt like I was at the end of my journey because, and I wanted to share this picture with you. I don't know if it came up or not. I don't know why I'm having some email issues here. I emailed myself a picture. For some reason the pictures aren't coming through, so unfortunately I can't share them with you. But when I was released from the hospital after my surgery, I had a catheter in my neck. So it's like it was a really long tube that went in my neck, and I had a pod here, okay? And it was to drain fluid. And once it got to an acceptable level, I was allowed to remove the drain, okay? And it was 1 week after surgery, and I was feeling on top of the world. I started to really feel like I was turning a corner. I had this tube removed, but unfortunately, I ran into a very, very rare complication. So there is something that you can run into from a thyroid surgery called a chyle leak, and we'll get into this later. But that's the complication that I ran into from my thyroid surgery with the neck dissection. Very, very rare for a right neck dissection to result in a chyle leak. The way your lymphatic system is set up, it's more common on the left side of your neck. But I appear to be a man of low probabilities, always beating the odds. So, in true CBG style, it was very rare to have somebody have a chyle leak on the right side of his neck. Somehow I managed to have that happen. And so, without going into too much there, I had a few trips to Tampa to get evaluated and get some fluid drained out of my neck. Not very fun stuff. Everyone was great. The doctors at Clayman, Dr. Walsh, Dr. Roy, Dr. Clayman himself, John, Sam, everybody who, and there's names I'm forgetting. I can see their faces, but everyone was great. But I had to take a few trips up there to get drained. And ultimately what ended up happening was I had to be, this was not fun. I had to be put on a no-fat diet. Fun. We'll get into that. A non-fat diet. And I had a smaller catheter put back in my neck with a smaller bulb. Okay? I had that thing in. I had that in my neck from, I believe, November 20th. I think it was November 20th. No, it was November 27th through January, I don't know, when the heck did I take it out? January 5th, maybe? But the point is I had that in for like 5.5 weeks. I mean, it was almost 6 weeks. I had another. Can you imagine having a little catheter put in you with a bulb for like 6 more weeks, draining out fluid? I had to go home for Christmas like that. I had to celebrate the New Year like that. That was a rough period as well. That was a very rough period because if you think about it, I finally felt like I turned a corner. The surgery went well. I took out the catheter. I was glad to get this little baby off me, and I was on the mend, and then I had to put a catheter back in me. It was pretty depressing. It was pretty rough. And again, you just would have good days and bad days, and that's okay. Like, that's okay. Like, if you're going through something extremely difficult in life, like and here's the other thing, and here are the types of friends that I appreciate. The types of friends that I appreciate are the ones that really understand, that don't need all the details, and are just there to if you need their help. You got to understand a lot of the details about what was going on with me. I kept very close to the hip and did not share with anyone until I was ready. I have that right. That is my decision. And anyone who felt differently about it in a selfish way, they're out of line. I will share my personal information with who I want to share it with when I want to share it, if I want to share it at all. And the friends who, really good friends, will understand that and say, hey, I don't know what's going on, and you share with me when you're ready, but I'm here for you. That is a real friend. That is a real friend. And keep that in mind when you're going through something. The people who reach out to you and genuinely want to lend you an ear and listen to you, but don't push you to share information if you're not ready to share information, they're a really good friend. They're a really good friend. So keep that in mind. But yeah, so I ran into this health complication with the chyle leak. Again, presenting me with a lot of adversity. Not how I was planning on going home for Christmas and how I wanted to spend the New Year's. Again, we'll get into this. I had to be on a zero-fat diet. Zero, not a shred of fat. We will get into that. I could not enjoy the things that most people would typically enjoy around the holidays. I just couldn't. So it was not fun. And then changing environments was difficult. Being in my environment here in South Florida and having all of the personal care that I had set up to try to heal this neck, it was tough to carry that with me to up north when I went to visit my family. That change in environment ultimately ended up, I think, in many ways, exacerbating the onset of that chyle leak in certain ways. But we'll get into some of this education surrounding what a chyle leak is. But at the end of the day, what I also wanted to share with you guys is, I had that tube taken out a little while ago. I'm doing well. The neck is healing well. I'm finally able to start pushing myself more in the gym. This is only within the past few days. Squats, deadlifts, I'm finally starting to lift some more weight. It feels great. Dietarily, I'm starting to introduce more fats into my food. Tonight was the first time. This is so exciting. Tonight was the first time I made a salad and put some olive oil in the salad. And it's been great also. Let me share this. It's been great to get back and get into the gym and create that structure in my life. I was so freaking depressed, and I don't know how people live a sedentary life. I remember at one point, to try to heal my chyle leak, I spent 3 days just laying in bed working and not doing anything. And it was so fucking depressing. Like, I just can't live a life like that. I don't know how people don't move throughout the day. Having structure and discipline in your life in a manner, you're used to doing something every morning for 27 years, and then it just stops cold turkey and you can't do anything. I cannot tell you how difficult that is. It's not the same listening to Master of Puppets going for a freaking walk, okay? Going for a walk around the block listening to Master of Puppets is not the same as blasting out to it while doing some deadlifts. It's just not the same. So it was a little brutal. The other thing I wanted to share with that before I pause here and get to some comments and we get into some education on thyroid cancer is something else that brought me a lot of happiness and joy, whether people that I see, and this goes out to the people, this actually goes out to everyone who's really decided to thank you, make some time enjoying the live stream. And I hope if you're finding this informative, drop me a comment. I would love to know you're here. I want to say to the people who are watching this who I might know in real life, outside of my YouTube life, and I see you every day at the gym, those interactions are brief and fleeting. You know, it's a fist pump, it's some motivation, it's my quirky sense of humor, it's a smile, it's a laugh, it's whatever it is. That shit is a big deal to me, and I look forward to doing that every single day. The gym is my environment. It's just who I am, and I love seeing everyone every weekday morning, every weekend. I love going in there and just fucking kicking some ass, and seeing the people who are working out hard. If you're not working out hard, I will let you know. But that is who I am, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. And I also appreciate the people who show up to my YouTube streams, you know, who come to my YouTube channel. I have missed doing these live streams and doing these videos so much. I love coming out here after work and shooting the shit with some of you guys in the comments and coming in here and charting things and talking about crypto and talking about Gary Tyrant, Fucktard Gensler, and all these wonderful things that I really miss doing. Your life, when you're going like, there are people much more busy than me, but I'm a pretty busy person. And when you're used to your life going like what I will call 100 miles an hour, you're just going and you're going and you're going, and you're enjoying what you're doing, by the way, because I do. I love what I do. If you look at the general pace of my day, how I spend it, working out, work, YouTube, like how I generally spend my day, like I genuinely enjoy my life. And then when it just stops, and then you finally think you got it back, and then it just stops again. Because as you recall, if you're subscribed to this channel, I was supposed to come back several weeks ago. And I had these health complications and I had to focus on it. That is why I was not back. It was very depressing, very depressing. So I just want to thank everyone who, is a big part of my motivation and energy to get out there and continue living life and doing the things that I enjoy. I could not be more thankful. You know, it's crazy talking about some of this stuff because I've been so focused on all these health complications that came up with this Kyle leak that I often forget that I even had thyroid cancer. And we're going to get into hopefully the care and the continued doctor visits that, I need to make sure I'm doing to make sure that the thyroid cancer never returns and it's fully out of the body and it hasn't spread anywhere else. In most cases, it doesn't, so I should be in good shape. But, it's something you got to stay on top of, and we'll get into that. But, yeah, as it stands right now, each day that has been moving forward, I've been doing better and better and better. So just really thankful for that. I'm thankful for every single person who has decided to take time out of their day to join the live stream. I really appreciate it. Let me get to the comments, and then we're going to get into some educational pieces here. All right, who do we got? Kathleen, it's very good to see you. Very, very good to see you. Thank you for always being a strong supporter. Strong. Deshaun is in the house. What's up, brother? He's one of my gym brothers. I see him and his wife. I see them in the gym. Great looking couple, hard workers, both of them. So glad to see you here. Thank you, Steve, for the positive feedback. Mike, I appreciate it. Mike and I go way back. Mike and I met in college, and he's when I think about a friendship like the one I've had with Mike, it's one of those things you understand in life that people get older in life and they have a family. Some people move. In this case, I moved to fucking South Florida, and he's still up north in northeastern United States. And you do lose touch with people that you at times. I hate to use the word regret, but you do regret losing contact with certain people. Mike's one of them. But I'm really happy that you turned out at the live stream today, and just it was nice to hear from you today. Triple X. I had a very rare cancer. Same thing. Kidneys. Let's fucking go, Josh. Hey, Triple X, if you're following me on Twitter, you can see that you can follow me here at Crypto Bull God. If you're not, feel free if you'd like to DM me. I'd be curious to hear more, and I'm sorry to hear that you went through that, because that sounds more serious than what I was going through. I'd be curious, if you want to connect. DM me. I'll try to. I'll be on the lookout for your DMs, because I'm pretty bad on Twitter with DMs. So I'll be on the lookout. But I'm really sorry to hear that you went through that, because it sounds worse than thyroid cancer. Glad to hear the connection was okay. It was freezing up on my end. So then that created some odd moments in the live stream where I was just pausing. All right. Kevin, I am so, I'll say this, I'm so glad that you had that detected early. And speaking of melanoma, I have had a lot of a sun exposure in my time. So that is something I'm on top of, just getting an annual skin screening. The thing is, one of the things you have to understand is, no matter how healthy, again, I'm 42, and I joke with people. I don't joke with people. I really mean this. Like, I feel like I'm 25. Like, physically, I feel like I'm 25. You put me in the gym, I fucking go at it. I just feel great. I feel like every year that passes by, I feel like I continue to be in the best shape of my life. But that does not mean anything in terms of things that you're just genetically predispositioned to get. And so it's very important to take the right types of routine care. And I will admit something. I have not been getting annual physicals. This is something I plan to change in the year 2024. Yes, CBG has not been getting annual physicals, which is quite frankly stupid. So I will be getting annual physicals moving forward and getting a PCP, but early detection does save lives. I just said this I just said this to someone. It is impossible for anyone here to truly understand what someone has been through unless you go through it yourself. You can try to relate, you can listen to them, and this isn't meant as any disrespect, it's just the truth. Unless if you personally go through something, you don't know what it's like. You don't. So do as much as you can to proactively prevent ever being in a situation where you're confronted with something like this. And if it does happen, again, listen to the story, go back, listen to what I was sharing, expressing all sorts of different emotions and feeling certain ways are possible. Feeling all certain ways, feeling depressed, angry, sad. Those are all super normal human things. But at the end of the day, you have a choice on how you want to respond to things. You're going to pick yourself up. You're going to move forward and know that, a lot of bad things, a lot of tough things happen to everyone in life. You're no different. You can't sit there and do this. You can't play a violin for yourself. Pick yourself the fuck up and move forward. Just like that Rocky line that came out in Rocky, one of the newer Rocky movies, Rocky 6, about it's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, right? It's not about how, I don't know. Now I forget you know what I'm trying to say. It's not about how hard you can punch. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving on. I don't know. You know the quote, but you know the point of it. The point is life is very, very difficult. And you always have a choice. I always say that the only things in life that you can control are your thoughts, your words, and your actions, okay? Most things in life are completely outside of your control. The older I've gotten, the more I've realized this and the more I've accepted it. It's outside your control. But what you can control is how you decide to look at it and think about it. And then what you say, how you speak, and then how you act. Those are the only things you can control. Jorge, it's very, very good to see you, my friend. Really, really nice to hear you, my friend. And appreciated the messages as well on Instagram. Evan, I was looking for you, man. I was looking for you. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. Deshaun, thank you for the very positive feedback. And thank you, you know, for once I feel like I need to hear a little bit of that. So it's nice, man. It's nice because, like I said, mentally it was really challenging. Thank you. Mike just stated it very well. Lifting to people like him and I is like breathing. You just do it. I could not agree more. Yes, Mike. I took more weeks off from weight training than I care to share. Let's not count the weeks. But it was, look, my body is recharged. I'm ready to go. I'll be squatting 600 pounds by July. So I'll be good to go. But I gave my body a little bit of a break, right? You think about it. I always joke with people that I take rest days every day. Like I take a rest day at night when I sleep. But one thing I was joking with my one buddy Kirk from the gym. One thing I really did learn from this is, you know, I took all this time off from the gym, and I finally can look in the mirror and I feel good about myself, and I feel good about myself. And what it taught me is you can take time off from the gym and your body isn't just going to cave in and collapse on itself. Like, you're going to be okay. You can take a rest day every now and then. So that is something I can take away from this experience, which is probably a healthy and good thing. Catherine, thank you. Glad to see you. I recognize you. Thank you so much for the positive. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's amazing some of the people who you don't realize notice you, or I've had people say things to me before that make me realize that certain people, you're impactful in some way on somebody's life and you don't even realize it. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Evelyn, what's going on? Got a little flex there. Lauren, it's really, really good to see you, Lauren. Thank you for showing up. I know Lauren in the real world. I couldn't miss this one. Always a good idea to get a second opinion. I agree, especially for something serious. Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, I'm doing very well, to be honest. Thank you, PJFP4Z. Glad you're back. I have no idea. That is an interesting screen name right there. Kathleen, yeah, and we're going to get into this, but I'm sorry to hear that you can relate to this. It is, and that might be a good segue, actually, on that comment. I want to get into some education here. Let me read a few more comments. Linda, I'm glad that you found this extremely informative. You're victors or victims. I like that. Choose to be a victor. Damn right, man. That's the way you got to look at it. That's the way you got to look at it. I have never been one to lay down or accept life circumstances. I do whatever the hell I can to get myself out of something that's not going well. So, How long has this live stream been going? Wow, we're already in an hour. All right, let's get through that. I thought the whole thing was going to take an hour, but we're just going to keep chugging along here. Thank you for everyone who's continued to stay tuned in. By the way, before we get into the educational piece, I did want to reiterate to all my fellow crypto brothers and sisters out there that I am coming back to the daily live stream, and I haven't decided if I'm going to kick the live stream off on Sunday, this Sunday or Monday, but I'm going to be doing my daily live stream all on the charts every weekday, just like I have been. So I'm going to be back. Let's talk about some education as it relates to thyroid cancer and also surgery and all sorts of fun things. Now, the thing I do want to reiterate, okay? I'm going to, just like I do with technical analysis, I'm not going to pretend. I'm going to educate where I can. I'm not an expert. I'm doing this to be helpful. This is my disclosure to you. None of this information should supplant anything that a medical professional will be telling you, right? Again, one of the challenges that I found, especially when I ran into my chyle leak, was finding really good, reputable information online. Very challenging. And so I'm hoping this part of the live stream can be used as an educational piece. You'll notice I'm going to talk a lot about the chyle leak situation because I don't think there's a lot of great information out there, a lot of consistent information, which was challenging. But again, this is me coming at it with no credentials and just offering whatever I can offer to try to be helpful to you, right? Always make sure you're consulting with your doctor. A good doctor will want you to be educated and well-informed so that you can be a partner with him or her to make joint decisions in your healthcare. That's how it should be. So let's talk about the first thing. Thyroid cancer is much more prevalent in females versus males. This is why, whether it was Deshaun or whether it was some females at the gym who I spoke to, I really encourage them to check out the live stream because this is something, God forbid, that would be helpful if they find themselves in a similar situation or they have a lady friend who they find to be in a similar situation. Thyroid cancer, it's like just think of it as a 2-to-1 ratio. It's twice as common in females than males. The type of cancer also tends to be more aggressive in males. And so what do I actually mean by aggressive? I mean just the rate at which it's going to spread and metastasize and potentially spread throughout your body. And so in my case, that's why, I didn't screw around with it, right? Even though it's a slower moving cancer, just knowing that in males it's more aggressive, and clearly I shared with you it had already spread, I wanted to get it taken care of right away. I didn't want to sit on it. And so that's very, very important to keep in mind. Let's talk about the Bethesda categories. This is something very important to understand. And this is something the individual who I reached out to for some help early on, I think she may be a little misinformed, and I can potentially help to provide some information to clear up some misunderstandings that she may have on how this actually works. So if you get some imaging done and it is discovered that you have, in my case, a nodule on your thyroid, okay, and a medical professional, based on the size of the nodule, because a lot of the times you get calcium deposits, on your thyroid. There could be little bumps, little things like that. But if there's a large enough nodule on the thyroid, it's going to be recommended that you get a biopsy, a finely aspirated needle or finely aspirated needle. I think it's FNA. I'm confusing this. I've done this at the beginning of the live stream. And so the point of this biopsy is to spit back a value to you, essentially, that is what is known as a Bethesda category. And I believe it goes from 1 to 5. It may go up to 6. But basically, the higher up you go, the way you want to properly interpret that is, it's essentially a higher probability that you have cancer. None of these Bethesda categories are going to tell you with certainty, and I want you to hear this very clearly, none of the Bethesda categories are going to tell you with absolute certainty that you have cancer. The surgery itself will unconvincingly tell the surgeon that you have cancer. But the Bethesda categories is going to indicate to you the likelihood that you have cancer. Now, I believe my Bethesda category, the first time on my biopsy was 4, and then I think the second one was 5. Either that or it was 5 and 6. I mean, I ended up nearly peaking out. I don't think I got 6. I think it does go up to 6, and mine was 4 and 5. But my Bethesda category was so high that it was, if you looked up the probabilities on it, very high probability that I had cancer. But again, no certainty until you actually get the surgery. Earlier, I explained how thyroid cancer spreads. If your cancer does spread, it goes behind the thyroid to the lymph nodes behind your thyroid first. Now, that is very difficult to detect in imaging alone. So the surgery itself is going to indicate if the cancer has spread to the lymph nodes behind the thyroid. Now, if it starts to spread outside of those once it spreads there, it can go to the other side of the thyroid, it can go to the sides of your neck, the left, the right, it can go to your vocal cord. Things can get a little crazy then, so that's why you want to make sure to take care of things as early as possible to prevent things from metastasizing and spreading. A good thyroid surgeon will perform the surgery in a way that I described earlier. If they have a nodule using me as an example, I had a nodule on the right side. The way it was explained to me by the surgeons at Clayman, they'll do their own diagnostic testing to see what they can to make sure it hasn't spread. At the time of surgery, they'll remove that half of the thyroid, determine, at that time with the pathologist what type of cancer it is, but also they'll look at the lymph nodes behind the neck to see if it has spread. That's going to indicate to them if they need to remove the other side of your thyroid or if they can keep it in place, if it has spread or not to those lymph nodes, okay? The hope would be for anyone in a similar situation is you can get what's called a hemithyroidectomy. A hemithyroidectomy is just half of your thyroid that's removed, and that other half that remains should function for most people fully as normal. You shouldn't have to be on a hormone for the rest of your life. But if you get a full thyroidectomy, now we're getting into hormone replacement, which is what we'll get into in a little bit here. Let's see, I hit on that. So symptoms, right? And this is, I'm going to kind of tie items 5 and 8, what I have noted here together. So let's talk about what it means to be hypo versus hyper thyroidic, or have to be hypothyroid, to have, hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. Hyperthyroidism is an overactivity of that hormone secreted by the thyroid. So you have an overactive thyroid, right? Some symptoms with that could be weight loss. It could be some tremors, difficulty sleeping, things like that. If you have hypothyroidism, someone who has hypothyroidism has an underactive thyroid gland, or in the case, someone like myself who had their whole thyroid removed will always be hypothyroided, will always have hypothyroidism. And if you have hypothyroidism, some symptoms that are associated with that, you could have low energy, you could feel depressed, like just kind of out of it. I know that's something that I've been struggling with here and there. Not so much the low energy. Weight gain is another one, which thankfully I have not struggled with any weight gain. I think the reason I haven't struggled with any weight gain is because I have maintained my activity level. And I also think because of the chyle leak situation, I was on a zero-fat diet for so long. That also aided in that. But I'm also a very active person. Besides 3 days of sitting around and not doing anything, trying to heal the chyle leak, I was always active and walking, even if I couldn't weight train. So I haven't had weight gain, but you can experience that. And something I have absolutely experienced, which has been very frustrating, is a feeling of feeling cold. My one buddy joked with me the one morning I showed up at the gym. Yeah, I had my jacket on and I was just kind of bundled up, and I'm in South Florida and it must have been in maybe the 50s. I never get cold. Like, I'm the person who is warm and is very rare to get cold. I was born in the Northeast, man. Like, I can stand it. Cold to me was always, it's got to be in the teens and you got to have a wind chill. Like, if you're 20 and above, it's not cold out for me. That's just how it always was. And I noticed when I went home this season for Christmas, I mean, it was a joke. I was getting layered up with 2 or more jackets to stay warm. I was just very cold, and it's something I'm still struggling with, or feelings of cold. So I have hypothyroidism, and it's something that, let's get into the medication. So it's something that you're going to work with your endocrinologist to get the dosing on your thyroid replacement hormone therapy correct. Okay, so something that's very important. You're going to have ongoing treatment for the rest of your life. I'm going to work a little bit closer with my endocrinologist here in 2024 for a couple reasons we'll get into. But one of the reasons is he needs to make sure that he's doing blood test work, and he's also making sure I don't have certain symptoms. And there's something, if we take a look at this chart here, there's different levels that we could take a look at here, but I really want you to take a look at this TSH. This is your thyroid stimulating hormone, okay, your TSH. And the TSH level is very, very important. If your TSH level is very high, it's kind of the opposite of what you would think. If your TSH level is very high, it's an indication you're hypothyroidic, like me. If it's very, very low, that means you have hyperthyroidism, okay? In my case, my TSH level still is too high, right? So I'm working with my endocrinologist to get that hormone, that drug, that dosage level correct. Now, I would encourage everyone, and this is going to get into Google, and we're going to hit on this a little bit. I would really encourage everyone to do self-education, but I would also encourage everyone to not kill yourself over Google searches. Okay, if you're like my mother, you will Google anything and everything to make yourself believe the worst case scenario is going to happen to you. I was a very inquisitive person with the team of doctors at Clayman, and they did a great job explaining things to me. Again, I'll probably hit on this again during the live stream, but I could not have been in better hands since day one at that surgical center. That hospital is unlike any other hospital. They treated me so well, okay? Won't go into the bad hospitals I've been to, but Clayman is a phenomenal hospital. So where I'm going with this is one of the concerns that I expressed to Dr. Roy, one of my surgeons, is, you see me, I'm a real fit guy, right? Fitness is clearly very important. I am very concerned that and this was at the point where I didn't know if I was getting a full thyroidectomy. If I get this full thyroidectomy and I'm on hormone replacement for the rest of my life, am I going to be fatigued? Am I going to start gaining weight? And all this stuff is just, and I don't even like the idea of having God put organs in you for a reason. I don't want to have to rip that thing out unless I absolutely need to. She said, a lot of these people, when you go online and you read these horror stories, think about who you're working with here. These are more than likely individuals who number one, aren't compliant with their medication. Number two, CBG, you're an extremely active person. You're very fit. I feel extremely confident we can ultimately get you on the right level of medication and you can live your life just like normal, okay? I would say so far, even though I'm very early out of surgery. I'm only just out of 2 months. Even though my TSH levels are still out of whack and we need to get those right, which isn't surprising, I feel very good for the most part. I've told you the biggest thing that I struggle with is feeling cold. I have days sometimes where I do feel off. Depression, it's a form of, I feel more irritable than normal certain days. Depression is a strong word, but I just feel very blah. But most days, even though that is the case, I still feel like myself. My energy levels for the most part are still pretty high. I don't struggle to wake up in the morning. I've just my TSH levels not being where they need to be, my metabolism being lower than it needs to be. So I can't imagine how I'm going to feel once I actually get that in check. But going to see your endocrinologist is very important. We're going to see him a little bit. I'm going to see my endocrinologist a little bit more frequently here in 2024. But then my expectation is it should be roughly once a year to check in, do some blood work, make sure the dosing on my medication is still right. And if you think about it, or not if you think about it, let me share this with you. Unless if my weight is dramatically changing from year to year, once they get me on the right level of medication, I should be good to go, okay? And I will say in the past, how many years of my life, my weight has not fluctuated much. I've been pretty on cue. I want to get to around I want to weigh in at around $173, maybe even $175. I want to put on a little bit more muscle. So if I maintain a body weight anywhere between even 168 to 175 or wherever I want to be, once they get me on the right level of medication, I should be good to go. Now, the other reason it's very important after thyroid surgery to connect with a good endocrinologist, and this is something else I want to hit on, there is something called radioactive iodine treatment. Now, this is again something I'm in the midst right now of actually working with my endocrinologist to determine if that's appropriate for me. And if it is appropriate, what's the right dosage? Again, this is something that if you start doing Google searches on radioactive iodine treatment, you may feel you'll just stumble upon bad cases, right? You'll stumble upon bad stuff. But again, I have asked all the right questions to understand, hey, the therapy for this has changed over time. They selectively choose the right patients to provide radioactive iodine treatment to. It's a one dosage treatment. It should be, in most cases, a relatively low dosage of radioactive iodine treatment. And the whole purpose of this radioactive iodine treatment, this one pill you take, is there's really two purposes. The main purpose, as it was described to me, is if you think about it, when the surgeons go in and they remove your thyroid, okay, that has had cancer, these aren't AI surgeons, okay? They go in, they remove the thyroid. There could still be a little bit of tissue of that thyroid there. There also could be microscopic forms of cancer that are still in some of the remaining lymph nodes that we just can't detect in imaging, right? And so the purpose of this radioactive iodine pill is to go in there and just kill whatever is remaining, right? So that doesn't show up someday. And again, this tends to be a rather low dosage. It's one treatment. And it sounds to me, I'm asking all the right questions, believe me. But it sounds like a rather safe form of treatment. So that's another reason that it's very important once you go through a thyroid surgery to connect with a good endocrinologist, because there is some follow-up work to do. You got to do some body imaging, make sure everything in here is still looking good, nothing has spread. We got to measure all those thyroid levels, make sure we get that medication right. And then you need to have a conversation on whether radioactive iodine treatment makes sense. What else do I have here? The other thing that was very important, because I had a partial neck dissection, okay? And thank you for everyone who stuck with me. We were an hour and 24 minutes into this live stream, so thank you. The other thing that's very important when you get a neck dissection is you will meet with very basic exercises you need to do for 3 months for your shoulder. This is why anyone in the gym who sees me doing these, this is why I'm doing them. So actually things for your rotator cuff that I do today, this movement, pressing up against a wall on both sides, making sure you're getting some front arm movement, some lateral arm movements 3 times a day for 3 months. And the reason you want to do that is you want to prevent the risk of frozen shoulder. Yes, frozen shoulder. So that's also very important. The other thing you have to recognize, and I had some people comment on this on YouTube, so let me explain this. I've had a speech impairment. One of the things you have to understand is when the thyroid surgeons are going in there and they're taking out what they need to take out, there is some interaction with your vocal cords, okay? So essentially the way I recollect what was described to me is there's a little bit of an irritation of that vocal cord that takes place during surgery. Okay, they re-stimulate the vocal cords before they kind of seal things up, but there's some irritation in there. And so you can do some voice exercises. I've not been the best at that because there's so many other damn things I needed to do. But my voice has gotten tremendously better, tremendously better. I'm not going to sing to you all right now, but I do know, and I have some personal videos here, if you listen to my voice even a couple weeks ago, it sounded a lot more hoarse. My voice is starting to come back. So a lot of, especially right after surgery, like high notes, like I couldn't hit any high notes. Tried singing Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. It didn't go over very well. Couldn't hit those Michael Jackson high notes. But yeah, that's something that's normal and anticipated, and gradually over the coming months here, it should continue to improve. I have a full expectation based on what I've read that my voice should pretty much be back to normal anytime between February to, it could be as late as June or July. I mean, it could be 3 to 6 months after surgery, and that's fine. I mean, that's small potatoes to me. My voice has improved extensively over where it was at even a couple weeks ago. So I feel very optimistic about that. Now, I did want to dedicate this next section to what a chyle leak is. This is an extremely informative piece of the live stream. It's a very important educational piece of the live stream. Anyone going through thyroid surgery needs to be aware of, and where I really feel like I can provide a lot of value. An unfortunate complication that can sometimes come about from thyroid surgery, as it specifically relates to a partial neck dissection, in my case on the right side, which is even more rare, is something called a chyle leak. My understanding in general of what a chyle leak is that you have some lymph nodes. They're not completely healed, okay, in some sort of way, that they don't operate the way they should, okay? Your lymphatic system, it's very interesting. If you actually read about your lymphatic system travels all the way from your face, down behind your ear, through your neck, down to your chest, to your armpit. You have a lymphatic system in your legs. Now, these chyle leaks that occur can very routinely occur from plastic surgery. And I believe Dr. Clayman, who, by the way, let me just give a shout out to Dr. Clayman specifically, who was in contact with me. I have a text message conversation with him going back. When I had the chyle leak, phone calls. Now, you got to think about, he's a surgeon. He is Clayman. I can't imagine how many patients he has. This guy took time out of his day to call me, text me, a lot of interactions on the dot, medications I needed while I had the tube in because you have to be on antibiotics and things like that. Yeah, great guy. Just a great guy. All right. The one time I drove up and I stayed overnight a couple nights in Tampa because of this whole chyle leak situation. He came in on a day off to help drain some fluid. Just a great guy. Again, this is the best damn place you can go to, hands down. So keep this as a referral in case you or anyone, God forbid, needs to get their thyroid checked out. But which, by the way, I hit on this before we get into the chyle leak. Actually, I had hit on this before. In most cases, it is determined that you have one of these nodules that needs to get checked out incidentally through other imaging. It's very rare. There are some videos on their site. You can do some feeling around in your neck to determine if there are bumps. There are also other symptoms we talked about earlier, but a lot of times This is determined incidentally through other imaging. But anyway, getting back to the chyle leak, essentially you have a lymph node or lymph nodes that are not healed. And what happens is they start to leak fluid. And the way that you feed those lymph nodes, the way that you're feeding it, the word chyle actually, the way to think about it is that is a fatty substance, okay? That's fat that's getting excreted from your lymph nodes. It's a milky white substance. You need that milky white substance to clear up. And the only way to clear it up is to not feed your lymphatic system fat. And this is where we start to get into some gray matter. Now, what Clayman Institute has is a blueprint of the diet you're supposed to stick to. But then you go on Google and you're reading all sorts of different diets that you should be on for a lymphatic leak, okay? And this is where things start to get confusing. Where it also starts to get confusing is what therapy should you be doing for a chyle leak? How much bed rest should you be getting? How much activity should you be engaging in? Should you be using heat? Should you be using cold? What about red light therapy? Should you be using compression? What medications could you take to heal the lymphatic system? I want to hit home on this. There is no gold standard in the industry to heal a chyle leak. Hear that again. There is no gold standard or blueprint or understood standard methodology in the industry to heal a chyle leak. For a man like myself, who is very structured and organized, this was monumentally frustrating. What Clayman did is they provided me with the guidance they thought was best. Ultimately, what I did was I took their guidance, but then I self-educated myself and came up with a treatment plan that I believe ultimately led to my healing. That is what I believe. I firmly believe that in this situation, because I decided to take control of the situation and educate myself, that at that point, I accelerated the healing process. And so let me ultimately describe to you, and again, this is just what I did. I'm not telling you this is what will work for you. This is not medical advice. I'm just going to share with you what I did to help heal my chyle leak. What was very frustrating for me was I was using some combination of heating and icing and maybe, I think, compression before I went home, and compression before I went home for Christmas. When I went home for Christmas, I was so frustrated because at this point, I had a tube in me for 1, 2, 3, over 3 weeks. So for 3.5 weeks, I had a tube in me. And during that 3.5 weeks, there were some up and downs with the fluid levels. I didn't hit on this. Apologies. I had to be on a zero-fat diet. They had their blueprint for a diet. Then you read different things about the diet. So for 3.5 weeks, and I had a friend at the gym this morning that said, a zero-fat diet? Or do you mean like trace amounts of fat? No, oatmeal has fat. I could not eat oatmeal, okay? When I say zero fat, I mean there are personal videos I have where I'm laughing, waking up in the morning, eating celery for breakfast. It was not fun. I thought this was life's cruel joke that one of the most fit 41-year-old men on the face of the planet was eating like a fat, obese individual who needed to drastically lose weight. Okay? Taking celery and dipping it in salsa is not fun. Okay? So when I say zero fat diet, I mean a zero fat diet. So I was doing that for 3.5 weeks, and it was fucking frustrating. Egg whites, canned pumpkin, vegetable soups with bone broth, frozen vegetables, lots of vegetables, lots of berries. What else? Egg whites. So many egg whites. I had to change my protein powder. I went to that ISO Pure protein powder because it's literally the cleanest protein powder you can get. It has zero fat. Yeah, no dairy. Their instructions were no dairy. So I couldn't do Greek yogurt, fat-free Greek yogurt. I couldn't do fat-free milk. Couldn't do that. So it was so frustrating. So for 3.5 weeks, I was doing this diet, and my fluid levels, which I had to measure every day, we needed it to get under 30 milliliters. You know, we started at over 200. It went down, you know, it was fluctuating here and there, but ultimately I was making positive progress. So when I went home, my fluid levels started to drastically increase. And they started going up to levels that I hadn't seen until my tube was taken out. I literally was going in reverse. I cannot tell you how pissed off I was and how frustrated I was. And I thought to myself, I'm never going to get this tube out of me. I was beyond frustrated at Christmas. Beyond. And I was so frustrated when I left home that I enjoyed my time while I was home, but I felt like I couldn't fully enjoy it. Felt like I was not myself at all whatsoever. Definitely was not myself. And it was just very frustrating. It was very frustrating to see all this positive progress I made go down the tubes. So at that point, I decided I need to change something. I need to do something a little bit more drastic here. I need to figure out what the hell is going on and change the therapies going on, because insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result, right? So what worked for me ultimately after some research, I went on 3 medications. Let me share them with you. So, and again, I'm not telling you, I'm not endorsing anything. I'm just telling you what worked for me. So I started taking this stuff. This is a tissue healing substance. This is some other thing I read about as well, another tissue healing substance, okay? And this stuff here, this go-to herb, yeah, that's another healing substance. So hopefully the camera picked that up. I'm not sure. So this was the first one. Okay. This was the second. And this was the third, go-to cola. So first there were 3 sort of herbal supplements that I was on. And I also was taking a lymphatic oil via mouth. It had all sorts of different stuff in it. I also, and this was actually before I went home, I believe. No, I started doing this after I got back. I started taking decent amount of dosages of turmeric and ginger while I was home. I also went to 2 appointments for a lymphatic massage to try to massage. I read about it online, but I further refined the method of how I massage, but I learned the proper technique on how to massage your lymphatic system to try to heal that area and encourage the flow of fluid in the right direction through your lymphatic system. So I learned that by going very helpful place back home. I wish I would have thought about it ahead of time. I would have given them a shout out, but very nice place. People who are trained in lymphatic massages, something you can check out. I also educated myself on red light therapy. So I'm taking herbal supplements. I have an oil. I have also a lymphatic night cream that I use to put on here and do my massages. I would be massaging all throughout the day. I bought myself a red light system for my neck. I would put that on around 30 minutes a day. I mostly did heat. I did do some ice, but if I did ice, I would go right to heat, and I did a lot of compression. And then the last thing I did for 3 days, and this was by chance that this happened. And again, I want to stress my fluid levels were low at this point. They were dropping, okay? I didn't do this while my fluid levels were high. My fluid levels were beginning to decrease from all this stuff I was doing. Compression, heat, ice. If I iced, I went right to heat. Tons of massaging, herbal supplements to try to heal the tissue, lymphatic oil, turmeric, ginger. I mean, I'm trying every damn thing I can, right? I'm at a point of desperation. And at one point what happened was, and this is by chance, I took a shower, and it's quite complicated showering with a little thing stuck in your neck and a tube, tube coming out and a bulb. And the tube came off the bulb. And I thought to myself, well, that's a pain in the ass. And I went to put it in, and I thought, I wonder if I keep the bulb removed for a short period of time, clamp up the tube, and just do a ton of massaging and a ton of heat, and just try to promote health and healing, that I could get that fluid to stop coming out the wrong way and start to travel down the lymphatic system. So for 3 days, for approximately 3 days, for a relatively short period of time, maybe like 6 hours a day, 8 hours at most, for 3 days, just for 3 days, I would remove the tube, or the bulb, and keep the tube in, clamp it up so that no fluid, if there was any, would come out of the actual tube. Just the bulb was off. And I would just be doing a ton of massaging and all this stuff. And lo and behold, my fluid levels, while they were already going in the right direction before doing this, they really started to heal up. Like, it really started to stop draining. And so, again, I think that was another important aspect, potentially. It was either coincidence or is another important aspect of my healing, is that I did that. And I'll never forget the moment where I knew I had turned a corner was New Year's Eve. Now, on New Year's Eve, I showed up to the party we had gone to, and I had my bulb in at the time. I kept my bulb in the entire time at New Year's. No, I shouldn't say that. I did take it out later because I had it in for most of the day, and I had like no fluid. New Year's Eve, I'm like, why do I have this bulb? I'm walking around and I have a dress shirt on, and I got this bulb busting out of my left titty here, and I'm like, why do I have this thing in? There's no fluid coming out. Like, what's the point? And I'm like, you're supposed to massage the tube, make sure fluid's flowing through. I'm like, there's nothing coming out. So I removed the bulb, I clamped it up, and that New Year's, I remember I had, the alcohol that night hit me, probably because I had lost weight, had like zero body fat because I've been eating no fat. I had a little bit too much to drink that night, and it hit me way harder than I was anticipating. So I had the alcohol. I remember eating graham crackers, which I should not have been eating because it has fat. I had some chicken that had, I know it had fat with the broth with it. And I also remember at one point I had a full-fledged cookie. And so that was pretty stupid. I shouldn't have done that, right? But I remember waking up on New Year's Day, and at that point I had the bulb back in. There was no fluid. I looked in the mirror, my neck looked normal. There was no swelling or puffiness in my neck. And I was like, okay, I think I've turned a corner because I ingested fat. Alcohol, especially that much, is not a good thing to be doing, when you got this going on. And I've had no fluid like the past 24 hours. And that's on New Year's Day, as chance would have it, and ringing in 2024. I knew I had finally turned a corner. So yeah, So I've had that out for a while now. I've just started to get back into weight training, like I said, and I've just started to institute normal human food, not horse food as I was calling it, back into my diet. And this past Sunday, actually, something I wanted to share, I could not get the video to come through. Sunday, I actually officially celebrated my birthday. Even though Sunday was not my birthday, I actually went out. And I had creme brulee, and I had some pizza, and I had sushi, and I've had no ill effects from that, none whatsoever. My neck is looking fantastic, It's looking fantastic. I feel great, but I'm still this week, even though I had that day on Sunday, I'm still kind of easing into things. I'm not going full out normal diet right now. It's going to take me a little bit till I feel like comfortable doing that, just because of the traumatic situation. I did not get into what my neck actually looked like when it swelled up way back in November before I had the tube put in. It was pretty crazy. I have photos on my phone that I'm not going to share, but my neck swelled up pretty decently. So, so I think that was a little dramatic. So still easing into the diet and still easing into the weight training. But I think the weight training lately, these past several days have showed me that I can really start to pick things up from an intensity level. I haven't had any complications whatsoever. So I'm trying to think of anything from an educational standpoint that I missed. The Kyle leak was something I wanted to spend a lot of time on. So just to paraphrase one more time before I get to your comments, I'm not telling you this is what's going to work for you. I'm just going to tell you what worked for me because I'm not a medical professional. What worked for me for my Kyle leak was a combination of herbal supplements, pure herbal form stuff, turmeric and ginger, as well as I did peppermint tea and chamomile tea and lavender and things like that. A lymphatic cream, tons of massaging, properly learning how to do lymphatic massaging to encourage the flow of fluid down the lymphatic system. A lymphatic oil, an ingestion of a lymphatic oil every morning. I did a combination of heat and massage or ice heat massage, red light therapy every day, 30-35 minutes. And then once fluids started to noticeably decrease, I took out the bulb, clamped up the tube for several hours, okay, for 3 days straight. But it wasn't all day or anything like that. It was when fluids were decreasing for 3 days for several hours. And just kept massaging the hell out of my neck. And that's what worked for me. Now, as far as the diet, one last thing on this diet. Again, Clayman shared with me what they felt was best for a zero-fat diet. Now, after doing a zero-fat diet for approximately 5 weeks, I said, even for me, I don't know how people who are out of shape, obese, don't eat well, don't exercise. I have no idea if they had a Kyle leak, how they could be on a pure zero-fat diet. Because for me, the changes weren't extreme because I already eat healthy. But it even started to get to me. I mean, when you're making egg whites for dinner, you had that for breakfast and lunch, and you're making a salad. Okay, the salad has peppers and onions, diced up apples, some lime juice, lemon juice, and then some egg whites. I mean, it's not very thrilling, right? So even to me, it started getting to me, and I said, you know what? I have to challenge this diet because I feel like I'm going insane. So I understand Clayman has their blueprint, but I got to start going outside the wheelhouse. So what I started doing after approximately 5 weeks, I ingested dairy. I said, you know, fuck this. I've read online enough that you can do fat-free dairy. So I started eating fat-free Greek yogurt, and I started purchasing this really good, I forget the name of it, but it was really good, fat-free, ultra-purified milk, okay? One of the best decisions I ever made because I had absolutely no complications whatsoever from I was doing a lot of Greek yogurt and I was doing fat-free and a lot of fat-free milk. And then gradually by like week 6, I was like, okay, I'm going to do like a half a serving of oatmeal. I'm going to do just a little bit of this. So I started going from zero fat and no dairy to zero fat with fat-free dairy to zero fat, fat-free dairy, and then just trace amounts of fat by like week 6. Because for my own sanity, I needed to test things out. I couldn't continue to eat just celery, vegetable soup, and egg whites and canned pumpkin. It was driving me fucking nuts. So again, and a lot of that was a combination of exercising common sense, self-education, and listening to my doctors. You know, I think using a combination of all three. And I think that is all I had. Let me get to your comments. Let me see what we have here. That was a whole hell of a lot. To anyone who has stuck around for this live stream who has recently joined, feel free to drop a comment. As I always say on my live stream, feel free to hit the thumbs up button. That always helps the channel as well. If there's any live stream that I'd want to get out there to everyone who... let me give these guys a shout out again and get on the right page here. If there's any live stream that I'd want to get out there, to more people, this would be the live stream. So the more you hit the thumbs up button, the more it increases the likelihood this is going to get out there. Let's see what we got. Rick Simpson oil and sour soup tea with fasting. Interesting. Noted, Matt. Excellent stream. Your positive outlook on life along with excellent healthcare is undoubtedly a huge factor in your return to health. I thank you very much. I do agree that going into this, because I do take very good care of myself, that absolutely has aided my healing. No question, DT. You're already the toughest motherfucker. Keep it up. Thanks, man. I definitely, I really appreciate that. I do. No words besides appreciation. I really do. I was really looking forward to doing this live stream because, again, I feel like I have a lot of education that I can offer. And also, I mean, quite honestly, I hope this story in some way does provide some form of inspiration. Even if it doesn't today, maybe it's something that is, you watch down the road. I tried to paint an accurate depiction of who I am as a person and the form of adversity that I was confronted with a lot of detail in there, some personal stuff, in hopes that what it would communicate to you is you can still have all that shit happen to you. And it looks pretty damn bleak in the moment, but you can get yourself out of it. You really can, and you always have a choice, no matter how difficult it looks. Steve, a great source of information that will be saved. We never know when the need may arise for myself or someone who may need it. I am glad you're looking at it that way, Steve. Thank you. Thank you, CBG, for taking the time to detail and share your journey. Absolutely, my friend. Mr. BBC came every day on the YouTubes, giving some good educational advice, and little did we know he was also fighting cancer. This guy is a fucking soldier. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it feels good to just get back on here and do the content. For anyone who's listening who is not a subscriber of the channel and didn't know that I do, that I evaluate both crypto and traditional markets, feel free to subscribe to the channel or stay subscribed. You might learn something to help you out in the financial realm, because that is a big passion of mine. But thank you, Jorge, man. That appreciate that. Track, glad to see you in here, man. Glad to be back as well. Ricky, I'm so glad you're back. Extremely happy for your recovery. Mental, I'll tell you, the mental was the most physical. It was the most difficult part. Mental and physical strength, CBG. Thank you. Exceptionally inspirational. Hope your health keeps improving. Thank you. I am positive that it will. I appreciate that. And if there's anything material that comes up, I'll share it with you guys. But things are looking on the up and up. What's up, Kyle? Thank you, Linda. So inspirational. Why, thank you. Dana Bowman, glad to have back at the... Yeah, she is one of the hardest working women in that gym. Every time I look at you, you're sweating your ass off moving around. I can't help it when I see you in there. I always have to say something light and funny, You also have a contagious smile as well. But glad to have you back at the gym. Thanks for sharing. Great information. Thank you very much. I do got this, and I'm going to be good to go. Thank you, Kyle. I'm very glad to be back. I'm trying to think of anything else I can share. I think that wraps it up. I hope that you found this informative. Just making sure I dotted my I's and crossed my T's. That's it, guys. So I hope you found this educational and informative. I was really looking forward to sharing this with you guys, like I said. And also, to everyone on the normal subscription here, I am back to do my my daily TA live stream all in the charts right here. So I will be back at around 5:30 every day. Chris, you have a lot of questions about XLM going to the moon. I think that $40 could potentially happen by April 16th. You know, just like I believe Bitcoin's going to hit $200,000 by April. You know, if you believe in that, you definitely believe the Lucky Charms leprechaun is real. So, but hey, just wanted to take a moment again. Just wanted to take a moment again to thank everyone who reached out to me. Again, I would say I've received nothing but 99.9% of the people who have reached out to me. It's been nothing but positive. Between people checking in and being like, where the hell are you at? Hope you're doing well. People who I've seen in the gym who have given me my space, which I appreciate. You know, some people, you know, it's interesting how you, when you interact with people, how some people choose to interact with you. I never take it the wrong way. Someone actually, there was a woman who, what did she say to me? There was a lady I was interacting with, a girl I was interacting with, and she said, oh, I know what she said. She said, you know, she apologized to me, and she said something along the lines of, I should have been more cognizant. She said something along the lines of, she was busting my balls basically for not being in the gym because I had been missing. And I said, well, I'm back. And she saw something was going on with my neck, and I gave her the information on the live stream and said, hey, you may find it informative. And she felt bad about saying that. I said, no, there's nothing to feel bad about. I show up at that place every day working out, and I try to be super friendly to people and joke around with others and try to motivate other people. And so when someone takes notice of that at all, and they notice that you're missing, and then they just try to joke with you in some sort of way, I don't take that the wrong way. I'm not at all. It actually feels really nice. So I told her to take back her apology, and she didn't need to apologize. But I appreciate the support. I really do. It's nice you interact. Like I said, where I was going with this real quick, and then we're going to sign off, is you interact with some people who, just out of concern, they see you, they're like probably thinking to themselves, looking at my neck like, what the fuck is up with that? What happened to that guy? And then you have some people who, you know, they care, but they give you your space. They don't ask questions, but they just give you a fist pump, and they're happy to see you back. I appreciate all the interactions. I really do. I get it. Like I have enough common sense to understand we're all different, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Bill, hey, as a community, we've noticed you not being your cheerful self, sending prayers your way. I don't really feel like I haven't really been myself. You're in our thoughts. We hope you recover, kind sir. Thank you for sharing your journey. You're a fighter and tough human being. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable when life throws lemons. All our love. Bill, thank you for the very kind words. I really do. Thank you for the inspirational and kind words. I don't think there's any way to be more vulnerable than sharing every single thing that I've shared. And hey, maybe I haven't seemed as cheerful lately. I feel like I have been my normal self, but maybe I haven't. Maybe I haven't been. So, but I'm getting back there. So, Chris, believe it or not, I actually do work out. I do. I typically bro workouts. I typically use the squat rack for curls. That is generally what I do Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays are leg workouts, but I usually skip that. Don't believe in a leg workout. Yeah, I know. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in, and I hope that you found this educational content very helpful. If you did, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. Make sure to share this video. Share this video with at least one person. And until next time, as I always say, let's all spread awareness and carry the education forward. Take care and have a nice night, everyone. This is a late night for CBG. I should be sleeping right now. Much love, Chris. Thank you very much.